Hi everyone, it's Lauren. I hope you're all doing really well. Today I'm going to talk through all of the books that I intend to read over the next few months. So this is my to be read list for July, August and September, or Q3 if you will. So if you want to know what is going to come up on my channel in the next few months, and or if you fancy reading along with me, if any of these particularly interest you, then there are links to all of the books in the description box below. I have been really good in the last 3 months at reading through the TBR list I gave for myself. Normally I feel like I have loads of books that I just don't get round to, or I end up rolling over, and there's actually only one book from my previous list that I didn't read in the last 3 months, and that is The Years by Virginia Woolf. And you know, it's a bit of a big one. This is the last Woolf book that I have in my little collection of these beautiful vintage covers, so I'm trying to read through all of them, and I just wasn't in the mood for it, to be fair, but I will keep it on my list and hopefully get to it in the next few months. I think if books start to stay on my TBR for like more than 2 or 3 times, then it's time to retire them, but I still want to get to this. So I'm going to continue the project I have of trying to read a book from each different collection of books that I own, or little areas of display around my house, which I quite like because it gives me some structure and forces me to look at books that I might have forgotten about and was excited to read like 3 years ago when I bought them. And it stops me from just deviating and picking up whatever I want. And I quite like that structure. So from my Persephone books, I'm going to read Young Anne by Dorothy Whipple. I haven't always had the best track record with Persephone books. However, the book I read last month, Tory Heaven, which was by Margarita Lasky, which you can see in my reading wrap up I did for June, I actually really liked. I thought it was very funny, and I have heard from a lot of people that Dorothy Whipple is actually really worth a read, so I've been looking forward to this one. There's never normally a proper blurb in Persephone books, just extracts from the story on the flaps on the inside, but oh my goodness, and here comes a bookmark, but look how pretty it is on the inside. Yeah, so I don't know what to expect from this book. I quite like going into these blind, so we'll see how I get on with her. Next, from my shelf of white spine books, I've picked The Stolen Bicycle by Woo-Ming Yi, and I can't remember where I saw this book. I feel like it was on Matthew Sharappa's channel, just because I feel like this is the kind of thing he would have on his channel. So Matthew, I don't know if this is true or if I've just made it up, but it is an absolutely beautiful looking book as well. Full of illustrations, and it's the story of a man going in search for his father's stolen bicycle. As the title might suggest, let me find some nice illustrations for you there. And as he goes on that journey, he ends up meeting lots of different strange people who have all these intertwined stories, and it's like a look at his family history, I believe. It's been translated from Mandarin, I think a cross between Mandarin and Taiwanese. So just interested to read something completely different and also so beautiful. Like this is exactly the kind of book I was talking about, like the kind of book that's so gorgeous and I think, oh, put that on my shelf and never read it. So I'm really pleased to finally be picking it up. Equally, I have a shelf of black spine books, and from that I have chosen Mary Beard, Women and Power, a Manifesto, which is where she's looking back at cases of women in power, essentially, throughout antiquity, as I understand it. If you didn't know, Mary Beard is quite a famous classicist in the UK, and this is about, it gives examples of women throughout history and how history has treated powerful women. It says her examples range from the classical world to the modern day, exploring the cultural underpinnings of misogyny, considering the public voice of women, our cultural assumptions about women's relationship with power, and how few powerful women resist being packaged into a male template. So sounds really interesting. It's very short. This came out like so long ago and I still haven't read it, so another exciting one. Earlier this year I read Kirsty Logan's book of short stories, A Portable Shelter, which I really enjoyed and actually made it into my top list of books that I've read so far this year. So I thought I would treat myself to her second novel, which is The Gloaming. And I actually don't even know, again, just another beautiful book which I've put on my shelf with all my blue books. And it's about mermaids, I presume, because there's some mermaids on the front. But just generally, I really enjoy how she plays with different themes and kind of ascribes them to a fairy tale kind of landscape. I like how she deals with themes of women and queerness, and she also tends to look at myths and legends, but from a specifically Scottish standpoint, so more like Selkies than mermaids in general. So I quite like generally how she writes. So I'm looking forward to this. It says in the blurb, The Gloaming is a gorgeous tale of love and grief and the gap between fairy tales and real life. A few years ago, when I first kind of discovered Elena Ferrante, I went through a phase of buying lots of Europa edition books, and I haven't actually got round to reading very many of them. And the first book I'm going to pick up from that fairly long unread list of books is The Shadow of What We Were by Luis Sepulveda, and this, as you can see, is about Chile. And this is about 4 old friends who are meeting together after being sort of underground for many years since Pinochet's coup in 1973. In what I presume is present day they're meeting. I'm not sure. I'm sure I'll find out about it. So I think this is going to be quite interesting, not just from a learning perspective, but also just reading something completely different that I probably wouldn't necessarily pick up if it hadn't have been part of Europa editions, to be honest. And actually, keeping on a sort of Latin-y Spanish theme, I didn't realise this, I've decided to go through my Penguin classics that I have. These are the Pocket Penguins, which they released a few years ago, and I don't think they've released very many more of these. I don't know how well this went down, but this was translating lots of different classic works from, I think, mostly actually European countries, but I might be wrong there. It doesn't say. That's not very helpful. But I haven't read any of my Pocket Penguins, which is very bad of me. So I thought I would start with The House of Ulloa by Emilia Pardo Bazan. And it says on the back, set in a crumbling Spanish mansion, this gloriously comic and gothic novel follows the fortunes of an innocent young priest as he enters a world of moral decadence, sexual intrigue and corruption. And I know I've heard from people before that these are the sort of books that, like in Spain, you would study this at school, and that's what all the Pocket Penguins are, I think. But these just are not very widely distributed or heard of in the UK or in English-speaking world. Then from my collection of feminism/gender studies type-leaning literature, I have picked Betraying Big Brother by Lita Hong Fincher, who wrote Leftover Women, which was a book in the Feminist Orchestra, I think, a couple of years ago, which was so interesting. And this one is about feminist activism in China. So I really loved her take on Leftover Women and what it's like for women within Chinese society at the moment. I thought it was really well researched and so easy to read as well. So I think this will be a really look at not just how different kind of feminist organisations work in different countries and different cultures around the world, but particularly how you can be an activist within such a totalitarian regime as one has in China, and one that is continually and increasingly battling down on freedom of speech. And speaking of the Feminist Orchestra, actually, if you would like to join our feminist reading group, there is a Goodreads group linked in the description box below, and normally Jean and I do some videos talking about each book that we read every couple of months. We haven't done them yet for the last couple of months, so I'm sorry, bear with us on that one. We will film them soon, but you can also read along with us and talk to us in our videos and talk about them in the Goodreads group if you so wish. So our next read for July and August, I believe July and August? Yeah, probably, is Zami by Audre Lorde, which is an autobiography, or what she says here, a biomythography. So I'm very interested to read this. I haven't read very much Audre Lorde. I've just read one of her little pamphlets, The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House. So I'm really interested to learning a little bit more about her and learning about her life. So if you would like to read along with us in the next 2 months, you would be most welcome. We also have 2 more books coming later on in the year, which is Ursula K. Le Guin and an essay on virginity. And finally, some books that I just want to read just because I want to read them and I'm excited to, and not because they're part of any set. So that is exciting. The first one I just saw under my bed the other day and I thought, oh God, I'd forgotten about this, and immediately got super excited to read it. And that is Alphabet of Thorn by Patricia A. McKillip. I don't know anything about this book other than it's a fantasy novel, I think set in like a magical library or something. Basically Jean read it and made me buy it, but I'm just really in the mood for some fantasy at the moment. I don't know why, maybe it's because it's sunny. That's a really weird thing to say. I just feel like I want that complete escapism like you would get from like a summer holiday read. So yeah, I'm just in the mood for it. I think I've been reading some really quite hard going stuff recently, so I want something that's completely different. And actually I will be reading some more fantasy later in July as well, which is Den of Wolves by Juliette Marillier, which I have been buddy reading with Jean and Jill, and this is the 3rd in the Blackthorn and Grimm series. Blackthorn is a wise woman who has been tasked with helping people for a period of 7 years before she can seek revenge on this man that wronged her, and Grimm is her friend who is in prison with her sort of before this period, and they basically just go around solving crimes in this medieval fantasy world. And I just think it's really fun, it's really readable, and I've really enjoyed it. And it's quite a nice thing to buddy read with other people with as well, because you can be like, oh, what do you think's happening here? Who do you think's the evil person? and I've really enjoyed this, so we'll be getting on to that one shortly. And then finally, I really have been wanting to read some more Toni Morrison for a while, and I bought Beloved, I think not actually that long ago. The last time we had a booktuber meetup, I think I just spontaneously thought, yes, I've seen it and now is the time for me to buy it. Obviously Toni Morrison has written some amazing pieces of work. I've only read The Bluest Eye by her, which I really, really enjoyed. So I kind of want, and because she is so prolific, I feel like I have read essays previously which has alluded to bits of her writing. I think people assume you have read more of her, so I actually don't know too much about the plot of this one other than what it says on the blurb, because I didn't want to start looking into it and maybe potentially have it spoiled. But this is about a woman kind of haunted by her time in slavery. It's sort of set in the time when slavery looks like it's about to be coming to an end, and particularly by the death of her baby daughter. So in that sense, I'm sure this will be quite a difficult read, but I am really looking forward to reading Toni Morrison's writing again, because it's been too long and I absolutely loved The Bluest Eye, so I don't know why it has taken me, I think, like 2 or 3 years since I read that to pick up another book by her. It's ridiculous. So I've been a bit ambitious this time, because that is 12 books, and I don't know if I'll be able to read all of those in 3 months. I mean, I know technically I probably could, but I just know I'll probably change my mind and read some other things and put these on the back burner. But I'm just... I was in a real reading slump like earlier in this year, because I had a lot going on at work and I just didn't really have the time or energy to focus on reading. So now that that's all over, I'm just feeling this new joy in reading and getting really excited for all the books that I've put aside and haven't read in all that time. So, you know, I'm excited about it. I would love to, as always, hear from you if you've read any of these already. I'd love to have your recommendations on which ones you think I should read first, what you thought of them, or if you think any were rubbish, actually. I'm still interested to hear that. Let me know that as well, if you think I should avoid some. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!